Hello, and live from Denver, it is Friday night. Hello, critics. Welcome to Critical Conversations. I am going to verify we're all good here. Yeah, it looks like we are. Hey, everybody. I am joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa, as always.
Hello.
And we did pay attention. We did try to do a little bit of work on the sound here, so hopefully we have our leveling a little bit better this week, but do not demand perfection from us. I was kind of looking around. It's great to see you guys here too in the comments, everybody. It is interesting to me. I was looking around and seeing kind of how far we've come over the time. You know, I mean, I first started a YouTube channel years and years ago, all those halcyon years ago, in Minnesota when I lived there, with a $99 camera, some butcher paper thrown up behind me, and a couple of lights. And that was how I started. And look at where we are now. We got a TV behind us now. And a real studio, kinda. I mean, kinda, you know? And actually, just so you guys know, this is all due to you. Your support, your care, your compassion, your love for my channel, my show, has been what has made all of this possible. So thank you, everybody. And it is Friday, so boy, what are we gonna talk about tonight? Yeah, can I ask you guys what you think about the case against the man from Arkansas, aka Josh Duggar? So many things that I think about that stuff. Oh, bring back the Star Wars stuff. What Star Wars stuff are you referring to, Troy? My shelf back here, or because? Yeah, we moved out. We did move out the heads. I got Iron Man and Batman now because Batman's kind of 100% our thing.
Yeah.
And this came out a couple weeks ago, and I got it from Melissa, and it's just he's our guy. So yeah. But definitely still have our little other heads just slightly off camera here. Anyway, set design. As far as Josh Duggar goes, you know, I've put together two videos a few years ago with an interview with Christiana Miner, who was a survivor of the Gothard ATI IBLP Institute for Basic Life Principles, IBLP, and Advanced, I forgot what ATI stands for, Advanced Training Institute or something. Anyway, their whole homeschooling, culty little, you know, Christian fundamentalist kind of Christian nationalist sort of approach involves a lot of child abuse. There's a dogmatic child abuse that occurs in that group. There's a thing called blanket training, where they are training children, babies, before they're even talking. They are using blankets to physically discipline a child to stay in place and stay quiet and stay under control. And of course, you know, these are spare the rod, spoil the child kind of families.
Yep.
That's dogmatic for these groups. And so basically, you have the potential there, according to science at least, as I understand it, to do really long-term damage to these little people that you've created in a family. Before they've even really had a shot at life, or before they've even really had a chance to develop critical thinking, learn their place in the world, develop a personality, you're already through, not you, but the general abusers in these groups, in this Duggar outfit, dogmatically, and by that I mean it's according to their own scriptures, according to their homeschooling booklets and their dogma. The man that is the head of household, he's the one who is ultimately in charge. His word is law. If there is any conflict, he might listen to what his wife and kids have to say, but his word is final. And it can be an abusive word. It can be an abusive situation. You know, he could he could be quite abusive. And I've you guys are going to see an interview in a couple weeks with a woman who has just come forward who had absolutely horrifying childhood under a religious fanatic. And so I have a rather dim view on this kind of thing. I've seen too many stories of abuse and nonsense with a religious component for me to give these folks the benefit of the doubt anymore in terms of are they not abusing their children. I just see so much of the abuse that I kind of default in that direction. Perhaps that is unfair of me. Perhaps I am biased in that regard, but
I suppose I am too, though, because I see these people that like get away with not providing medical care to their children because of religious reasons, and that irks me. It's like that kid gets sick, that kid dies,
that's right.
Awful things happen, and it's just like, how is that not taken more seriously and considered child abuse in more states?
Well, exactly. And Jonathan brings up a point here in the comments. There was an SVU episode about Law and Order, the SUV.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was an SVU episode about how these fundamentalist Christians smothered a child to death with blankets and laying on them to get his demons out. I thought it was TV, not really a thing. No, that actually is a thing, Jonathan. I was laughing about a completely different thing. What SVU pulled in was a headline story, and that did happen, and or something very similar to that. And stuff like that happens a lot more frequently than you might imagine. Again, I know about stuff like that maybe more than other people do. So again, maybe my view of this is a little distorted. And I was going to say, some of the members of the okay, well, that's interesting, Lisa. Thank you for that comment. Got a little distracted there. I was going to say, sometimes I come to the show or I come to my channel a little pugilistic, a little ready to go, a little there. Because you read social media and you read some of the headlines or you try to prep for stuff and it gets you a little riled up sometimes, you get a little rare. And I think that's a little unfair sometimes because, to date, we have not had one really bad phone call, bad conversation, bad argument here. And we've been doing this show for almost a year. I mean, maybe more. I actually didn't look when we started. Alex, thank you very much for that super chat. That is awesome. Always appreciated. Greetings. And, we will check in with Seven in just a moment. I do have 7cam for you. But anyway, I just wanted to say, I really do want to kind of lower the temperature of my life a little bit. I'm not trying to make some broad, grand, announcement or resolution here. I'm just trying to say, I want to do better at that, at how I wind myself up. And, if there's a reason for somebody to wind me up or I'm going to have some argument with somebody or whatever, okay, fine, right? But I want to calm myself a little bit, tend to get a little into things, and I think that comes a little bit from there's a very interesting podcast posting tomorrow here, which was about a 2-hour conversation I had with John Atack, and we talk about some Scientology recovery and world stuff, and we talk about empaths, apaths, and sociopaths, and John and I are both pretty high-scoring empaths, and that's not necessarily always a good thing. It's kind of interesting how, among us empaths, we all agree caring and compassion and understanding are very, very important things. Right. Well, of course we're going to all agree on that. But we might agree too much sometimes. Sometimes maybe cutting people off might not be such a bad idea. But I am not making blanket statements there.
Right.
Context always is king. And on that note, Mary, thank you very much for that super chat. Always appreciate that context. Okay, got it, Lisa. Thank you for that information. I was a special needs child who had behavior problems they thought were demons. Yeah. You know, I said the other day something that sort of inspired me to carry forward with this show this week, and that is, um, I see you in the queue there, and we will pick that up in just a moment. Um, it seems to me that what I'm fighting back against or pushing back against is not so much even the concept of organized religion, which I have, big problems with. But it's really to try to narrow the target a little bit. It's more like I feel like I'm fighting a group of people across a number of denominations in the United States mainly, but we see this all over the world, of people who have a Stone Age values and a Stone Age understanding of life, mixed in with like an Iron Age fantasy story, and a lot of self-loathing as a component to kind of keep everybody in line. And I don't like those things, and I want to not have those things happen. And this kind of example is what brings that to mind, thinking that an illness or seizures or a medical problem of some kind that we do understand and we can do something about are demons. Are you kidding me? In 2021, we're talking about demons, like in seriousness. That's crazy. That's what I mean by Stone Age ideas and Iron Age. It's just delusional. It's crazy.
Well, isn't it something like 30 or 40% of Americans believe in a literal devil? And
yeah. The percentages are shockingly high. So anyway, just commenting on some of that because it led to my idea here tonight to talk about theism versus deism. Now, 7cam first, because we do need to check in with our little guy, and there he is. Little backlit today with the window in the background. He, if you can sort of see on the right, that's my beanbag chair. And he gets in there. That's between the wall and the beanbag chair. So we had to get down on the floor for the 7cam this week. But that's him just kind of chilling back there. He gets his little sunny position.
Yeah, he likes to sunbathe.
He does. He's kind of Garfield-like.
Yeah.
That way. So there's our little bundle of furry joy. We do love our cat. He's actually pretty awesome. Oh yeah, Karen, I will get the quote at some point during the show. Remind me to go on my Twitter feed, and I will get you the exact quote that I posted on Twitter, because that's where I put it the other day. Now, call in line 984-214-4154. We do have a call in the queue, so I'm going to pick it up. Hello, you are on.
Hello.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you today?
Up there, I recognize your voice. Hello, hey. How's it going, man?
Yeah. It's pretty well. Yeah. I think actually you've already hit on a interesting point. Well, interesting, perhaps the wrong word, but about child abuse and about so-called corporal punishment of children. I find it rather damning that apparently China is very close to banning corporal punishment of children in law, and the US won't touch it with a barge pole. I find that I find that damning. Now, whether or not that would be enforced in China is another matter, given that it's officially illegal in schools and happens anyway. But still, the point stands. I think the real reason why it's such a horrific thing is that anyone who knows anything about how humans actually work knows that there is no way for a human brain to say, oh, this is the good kind of pain that isn't going to release my cortisol. No,
Right.
This is good pain. No, it's not. It's bad pain. And now, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but again, it's like I would almost suspect that the opposite will be true. This person, your mom or dad, who is supposed to be a protective figure in your life, is the one doing the abuse.
Exactly.
And that must hit even harder. And it's like, we have all these people who say, oh, well, it happened to me, but I turned out all right. Well, here's the thing. You probably didn't. You just never talked
Exactly.
about it, and you didn't.
Yeah.
And you didn't grow up in a culture that even had the resources, never mind the cultural inclination, to allow people to talk about these issues. It's like you said a couple of years ago now, I think, that in the past, the effects of this kind of abuse on children were not well studied or well known.
That's right.
They are now. So while you could at least give parents of the past some leeway in the fact nobody knew, and again, it was the way things were always done, which is the last bastion of the morally indefensible. You can't even say that these days. They know, or they should know, and that makes it worse.
Exactly. Exactly. And we also have to acknowledge and recognize that that cultural values have changed greatly in the last decades, right? And children, laws against children working and abusing them in a work environment, they're barely 100 years old, 120 something years old, right? I mean, children have not been viewed the way we sort of view them now. I don't know, ever. I mean, really, certainly not in Western societies.
No.
And I think we have a real reckoning there. I think we have a lot more work to do on this. I don't want to try to, pendulum swing off into coddling kids or not teaching them discipline or something. But the physical abuse just has to stop, you know? Yeah.
It just creates
a
loop of abuse.
I don't think this is really a discussion. Yeah. I don't think this is really a discussion about so-called helicopter parenting, which is not really as much of a thing in the UK, actually, in the US, at least not to the extent that we see in the media, which, again, the media might have reasons to focus on all these cases. It's like if you track the biggest killers of Americans versus how much time these various killers get in the media when we talk about deaths of Americans.
Yep.
I'm sure it won't surprise you to learn that heart disease is nowhere near as prominent as murder on media coverage, and yet it kills far more people.
Number one killer of everybody.
Maybe my perception. Maybe my perception of Americans on this is skewed by what gets out on the media. I don't know.
Well, I think everybody's
in
is.
The UK.
Yeah, I think everybody's is, and I think actually a point about this that might be significant or relevant is the media tends to report on stories that are very amygdala dependent. I mean, in other words, your amygdala, from one thing I've read. We think about it as a fear center or as a place where anger and fear and stuff kind of generate. It's not totally true. Apparently, it's more about novelty or newness. When new things are happening to you or something has to be decided upon, right? There's an unpredictable thing that's occurring and your brain has to go, hold on a second, right? That's the amygdala. And again, there's more there going on than just that, of course. I'm being incredibly reductionist. But my point is that the media is a lot like that. It services that. It's always looking for new, different, unusual looking, or if it's not unusual, they'll try to put some spin on it to make it interesting or unusual. And what they miss, my point where I'm going with all this is, what they miss is the average, ordinary behavior that occurs every day all across America is a whole lot of child abuse. And because it's not, because there's no like fantastic story, they pop up every now and again, it doesn't get the coverage that I think it would if or should. Am I making sense? That's a little, I was a little fumbling with that.
It makes sense. I don't know. I kind of want to address this comment about how sometimes parents have no other resource. I don't know if I feel.
We lost him somehow.
Oh no.
Yeah, we didn't lose him because I hung up this time, but somehow we lost him, I think. Here, let me pick that back up because I think that's him in the queue.
Okay.
Hey, you're back. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how we lost you there.
You start. Yeah, you started speaking there, and I saw your face moving on the screen, so I didn't really hear any of that, unfortunately.
Sorry. It's okay. All I was trying to make the point of was that, in a very fumbly way, is that the media covers things that are sensationalistic and skips the average, ordinary behavior.
Absolutely.
And average, ordinary behavior across a great deal of the Midwest and South, and very likely other places too, geographically, is very child abuse type behavior as a routine, normal thing. So. Yeah. So it can't. So I was just to address your point of maybe you're skewed or biased because of the way the media presents things. Yeah, I think everybody is because of that factor of what I just said.
Yeah. And again, it's like the scary part is the other side of the coin is how many Dick Turpins are there. The guy who was it Dick Turpin? I can't remember his name. The guy who had his kids taken away. There was like 7 of them chained to beds and stuff.
Oh God, yeah. Right.
Yeah. That case a couple of years ago. The flip side is how many of those are there, because certainly the reason why stories like that are focused on, A, obviously there is a public interest in reporting that,
right.
But B, the way those stories are reported on versus murders, kidnappings, etc., is very much, I believe, designed to make us think that that's a one-off.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
We hope it is, obviously, but unfortunately, like, look at the population of America and look at the amount of high control groups in America. America has always been susceptible to the creation of high control groups. It's in the DNA of the founding of the country. The sad truth is there's probably at least a few more.
Yeah, absolutely there is. I'll give you one other factor that is on my radar right now, again, because it's kind of fresh in my mind from this interview I did this week and some research, is the way communities, and this is pretty applicable mainly to religious communities, as I am thinking about it right now, will cover this kind of behavior up. Because it is acceptable to the little community. And I'm talking about like some of these small religious sects and groups, some of these little culty groups that kind of go off and, 200 people, 300 people, kind of thing. And they'll get away with all kinds of nonsense within the community, or abusers can go into those communities and get away with all kinds of nonsense because, we don't want the outsiders knowing anything about this, so,
And because outside law is inferior, cough, introduction to Scientology ethics, cough.
Exactly.
You absolutely get that attitude again, and that is not confined to Scientology. We have God's law, and this is what it is, and we're answerable to God. You can put me in jail if you want, but I don't care. And Warren Jeffs is still running the FLDS from prison, even.
Yeah, I mean, was it you who told me that he had...
as far as I heard, he confessed to not really being the prophet, but I mean, maybe he changed. Yeah,
there might have been a change with that, but your point is well taken. Your point is definitely well taken. And of course,
if he did,
go ahead.
If he did ever say he wasn't really the prophet, I guarantee you the FLDS never found out.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody mentions here, Danielle mentions Jehovah's Witnesses are another example of sheltering pedophiles and abusers, right? And of course, we've seen that in the Catholic Church.
That reminds me of the Japanese emperor's surrender in World War II. He spoke in a very archaic form of classical Japanese that the common Japanese person wouldn't understand. Secondly, he spoke so ambiguously that even those who could understand didn't even know whether he was surrendering or not. And that was absolutely deliberate because of the culture that had developed certainly since the 20s, where there's absolutely no way the emperor of all people could be seen to openly surrender. But of course he had to anyway. But
right.
He did it in a way that would keep his little social order intact. Just like I guarantee there's no way the FLDS found out, because there's no way that Warren Jeffs would have risked that social order faltering.
Exactly. And of course, you also have, saving face and all that cultural stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Well, let me throw something else at you just for fun, and since you're on the phone here, and we managed to go off into this this child abuse tangent because of the Duggar question, which was quite interesting. Since I did throw this out there as theism versus deism this week, I would like to ask you, since I got you on the phone here, what are your views on that?
Well, I mean, I'm a Catholic. I'm not a biblical literalist, obviously, but I believe deism makes sense to a lot of people, not least because we don't know how the universe came into creation. And the closer we go to what we believe is the creation of the universe, the less and less certain things become. And there's nothing irrational about concluding that a God did that. There's also nothing necessarily irrational with concluding that the same God did that and then isn't meddling in human affairs.
Exactly.
The thing that theism scratched sociologically, I mean, apart from the fact that I think there is evidence, or there's at least rational reasons to believe in a theistic God, but sociologically, what theism does that deism doesn't is provide us with a moral foundation. There's two major things that Christopher Hitchens said that I never really agreed with, and one of them was, and I think is very relevant to this, is the idea that we would have just figured out on our own what was right and wrong. Well, what's the evidence that we would have figured out on our own what was right or wrong? We don't know. We'll never know because religion stepped in to fill that gap. We'll never know. But what is the evidence? I don't think there is any. And I think the way that humans have always behaved to one another kind of suggests that maybe we wouldn't have.
Well, I will throw out only a half-baked idea because I haven't done the research myself. This is on a via from John Atack, but in the last couple of conversations I've had with him, he's pointed up a couple different civilizations that have existed, not necessarily as representative of how the majority of humans act, but certainly still real, that there have been a couple societies that have developed that have had peaceful relations, gotten along great, didn't have a whole lot of war or anything for periods of hundreds of years at a shot, which is difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And one imagines that,
absolutely.
and when you dive in and look into what those cultures are about, fairly simple, but they have a rule system that isn't necessarily God-based. It's not, well, God says I need to do this or I need to do that, so therefore I must, So just throwing it out there as some, in terms of evidence of something to look at.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's very, very interesting. Absolutely. And I think the other thing about theism is actually the concept of hell. Now, some of my family members actually believe, Catholic as they were, that the concept of hell was tantamount to child abuse. I don't really believe that. And unless it's like in a fundamentalist, you're going to be thrown into fire and brimstone. If that's what you're teaching children, that's obviously child abuse. But that's not what most religious people are teaching about heaven and hell. And the reason why I believe that hell is actually useful sociologically is because it makes even bad people have to think about the consequences beyond their own lifetime. That they aren't just going to escape justice and die and everything's going to be fine. I can't remember who it was who once used Idi Amin as an example. That nobody likes the idea that Idi Amin just sat in Mecca, suddenly rediscovered his Muslim faith and got away with it. The guy actually concluded that he probably wouldn't really care if he was told that there was no heaven, but he would care more if he was told there's no hell, because so many bad people have escaped justice throughout history, and also so many people today might even think, oh, well, I can now be as dishonest as I like, as long as I get away with it.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say that I've had an idea. I don't even want to call it. I don't even want to like pretty it up with the word theory. I've had an idea for quite some time that that as a sociological control or population control mechanism, religion, as you're describing it, is very useful. Now, whether this is how it happened or not, I can't say, but it certainly is the case that we find that it is used for this. That it is used for, the stockade isn't a good enough punishment to get you to not murder your fellow man here in this little community we have. Well, then I'm going to bring out the big guns and I'm going to say the Sky Daddy is going to punish you for all of eternity if you don't get your shit together. And the guy goes, oh my God, really? Yeah, really. Oh, okay.
I don't think it works on people that are that bad.
Well, I think it depends on the person.
I mean, if you're a sociopath, you don't care.
Right, but there are an awful lot of people who are not sociopaths who get involved in very deep criminal activity and even murder, right? Gangs, gang kind of violence, trafficking, stuff like that. And it might be that the person who has set that up or is running that is sociopathic, or there are, crews of that going on. But we don't want to, I think it would be unreasonable to say everybody connected with that is that way.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying with the threat of a horrible place when you die, I don't think that convinces everybody to stop doing bad things.
Not everybody. No, not everybody, but it does work on a certain percentage of people.
Yeah.
And we know that through testimonials.
I would actually say that percentage is much higher than some of us want to believe. Not because we want to believe it doesn't work, none of that stuff, but because we want to believe that the people that would do that are the sociopaths and psychopaths. The sad truth is the vast majority of them probably aren't. Now, I mean, we've been talking a while. I could probably go, but I'd like to say one thing before I do.
Go ahead.
I'd like to say about you saying that sometimes you feel like you're going to come on here and be pugnacious and fight people, and why you weren't sure why that might happen. I mean, I have a couple of theories. I don't know more than one major one. If I were you, if I were looking at my YouTube comments on some of the podcasts that I do, I was very impressed you got Joe Walsh on. I really enjoyed that. And yet you had a couple of bloody Trumpers being like, oh, I'll unsubscribe if you keep people like him on. And then whenever you talk about the excesses of so-called social justice culture, which is a total cult. I've actually got a piece from Arnie Lerma's blog up on how coercive persuasion works. But that's probably for another day, how you analogize that to that. And then you've got people like, oh my God, Chris, you're going to get in bed with the alt-right because you say these people are bad. I mean, how do you juggle dealing with two sets of loons at the same time?
It's fun, isn't it? Yeah, I'm trying to survive as the radical centrist.
Yeah, and broadly succeeding, I would say. Broadly succeeding.
Thank you very much. All right, man. Well, thanks for calling in. It was great talking to you this week.
Very welcome. It's great to talk.
Bye-bye, man. All right. We're getting some great comments here, and this is good stuff. Somebody was asking about, do you think dogs believe humans are gods? Do animals believe in gods? I think somebody else was asking here earlier, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the subjective life of animals, but
I mean, I doubt it. But...
we don't have any evidence that I know, that I'm aware of. Now, I can't obviously say I've read every study or even gone on deep dives on this, but I from the exposure I have had and the study that I have done of human behavioral psychology and biology and all that, I've not seen evidence that there is any other species or group of life on this planet that has supernatural beliefs.
Right.
I think some things might be looked at and you go, well, that's interesting, but it doesn't necessarily mean supernatural.
I think they'd have to have a different kind of brain to even be able to think like that.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, you have more basic things in the way of that, like theory of mind, stuff like that, where, you know, a lot of animals are not even necessarily aware of the fact that other creatures have an independent agency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, just like babies. I mean, human babies until they're about 3 to 5 years old have no concept that anybody else in the world has independent thinking or has their own mind. Everybody in the world is there to serve the baby. It's just part of the baby's world as far as the baby's concerned or the child is concerned. And this whole theory of mind thing is quite interesting. Thank you, preacher. That is awesome. And yeah, if my dog thinks worship me. Yeah, I hope not. So, you know, could you call the adoration and care and compassion that a dog has for a human worship? I would very much hesitate to go there. I mean, just from a scientific basis, I don't see it at all. From a non, you know, academic, just kind of thinking about it sort of thing, it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of cool. But humans and dogs specifically have been symbiotes for so long. We've had such a tight, interesting, unique relationship that I just don't think I'd call it worship or that they think we're gods. I don't think it quite works that way. I think it's a lot more cooperative of a relationship between humans and dogs than that, you know. If any other animals had a concept of a deity. Yeah, I missed the earlier. That's right. I suggest humans historically borrowed the concept from canines. A concept of a deity. You're gonna have to convince me that a dog has a concept of a deity, though, because I just, as I just said, I can't go there. But maybe it's just stuff I don't know. Oh, it could be where the human idea of worship started. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Well, that's conjectural. That's interesting. I got no idea. Let's go ahead, though, and check in on 7.
Yeah, well,
and
then we're about animals.
Then we're gonna pick up a little bit on the theism deism thing. There's our little bundle of joy again. Now, this is not the same footage as last time. It's just sometimes he is so still.
Yeah.
He'll just sit there totally still. I mean, you can see him breathing, and that's about it, you know.
See his little fur popping up and down.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes he'll be sitting there for so long, so still, that I'll reach out and touch him just to make sure he's still breathing.
Been there.
Yeah, you go, what?
Especially when he gets in those weird positions where his eyes are half open and you're like, are you okay?
Yeah, Henny says loyalty would be a better word. I think that's actually true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Laughing Daffodils, about that. I actually worked at a dog kennel. I definitely know what you're talking about. Dogs are amazing. But that symbiosis, that check that out if you haven't done any research on that or look into that, because it's an old thing. And it's been commented on by biologists, sociologists, and in the field of biology, it's been commented on about the special relationship between dogs and humans. Cats and humans, to a lesser degree, like domesticated animals is where you'll probably find literature on this. Anyway, that's what I can say about that. Yeah, just looking at some other comments here. See, here's the thing about where I thought about this with theism versus deism, or where my thinking goes with this is, I'm not a deist, by the way. I'm agnostic. I don't fit the deist label at all, because I don't really believe in a God. I just wonder about it. I wonder about it out loud. I talk about it, but it's not something in my mind that I'm sitting like, gee, I wonder. It's not actually that big of a deal to me in my life, whether there is or isn't a God. which made me look into deism, because I was like, well, what's this all about?
Yeah.
Right? And there's different brands of it, by the way. And historically, it's quite interesting. The history of deism is kind of odd. It's different than I thought it would be. And of course, some of our founding fathers were deists. Thomas Jefferson, most famously, with his Bible that had all the supernatural stuff taken out. Because deism, in that sense, is, the idea or belief that, yeah, sure, there was a God or a creator, and we are endowed with certain supernatural beliefs and ideas, such as a God belief, but there's no revelations. There's no revelation really allowed for, or supernaturalness. God created it and left, or is watching, or is passively observing. There's different flavors of this. And that's kind of more where I come from. But I logicked my way into it. I thought, well, why does it make any sense at all if you start examining the fact that the universe is 13.8 billion years old, and that our galaxy, just our galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, is 100,000 light years across. When you start running numbers on the size of the universe, on the size of even our solar system, of the sheer scale, the unimaginable, unfathomable scale of where we are and what the universe is, I immediately lose all ideas of our significance or importance in the grand scheme of things. I just lose it entirely. There's nothing special, significant, or important about us, human beings on planet Earth, little pipsqueak planet in the little corner of a pipsqueak galaxy.
In a huge universe, yeah.
In the middle of, a truly unfathomably large universe. It is awe-inspiring. It truly is one of the few things that deserves the word awesome. It is awe-inspiring. And I look at that, in my mind, just reels. My spirit reels, my entire existence reels. I can't even grasp it. And I think to myself, how much life is there in this universe? How much life must there be? Even if it's completely random circumstance, lightning strike in the pond of chemicals and proto-life molecules and stuff, right? Amino acids, all that. Like, even if it's that random, that it's going to happen that infrequently, that would have to happen, that would still replicate, statistically speaking, hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of times in this almost infinite universe. And we're so special? Anyway, I think I made my point there, but it just doesn't fly for me, right? So deism is this concept that God exists, and he's out there, maybe, but he's not interfering in anything going on with his creation. He created it, and he stepped back. That's basically deism, right? It's just God's not involved. And so there isn't really a whole lot of reason to have to worship the guy, because he's not really there to be worshipped, or that's not really the commandment. And at least in some flavors of deism. And he's just not there interfering. And so all the supernatural stuff kind of disappears. And that's deism. It's still having a God belief, though. It's not atheism.
Right.
Atheism is there is no God. I don't believe it. I'm not going to believe it. I'm not even going to consider it. It's just not a reality for me. There's no God. That's your atheism. Deism is, no, I think there's something, but it's not anything like what's described in the Bible. It's not like that. So that's how I understand those concepts. Let's see what are they saying in the comments here. I haven't been keeping up.
Let's see.
Yeah, doesn't intervene. That's right. Like Nick said.
Yeah, people are wondering why he could create this but not intervene. And maybe it's not a not be able to intervene. It just doesn't really want to.
Well, it chooses not to. And, and if you think about this is actually, to me, it's a lot more sensible than the kind of interference that I understand from the Abrahamic religions. Even Judaism is a little bit, it's the most kind of deistic, but it's still, God's still shoving his hand into the affairs of man all the time. And,
right.
And to me, this whole thing being some vast science experiment on the part of a scientist called God makes a hell of a lot more sense to me than I'm going to create this whole thing and then I'm going to demand all these puny little creatures that are so insignificant that they're almost unperceivable from the standpoint of a God.
Yeah, and you look at how huge our universe is.
Right.
Why does he only care about this planet?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And even if he were to replicate himself, or could, because he's this infinite being, right? And he could replicate himself across all the planets where there's life and demand they worship him and demand they follow these commandments or I'm going to burn y'all in hell. How does that make any sense? That makes no sense to any way I can think at all. That somebody would do all this and then be so petty as to demand our complete servitude and submission. What? Really? That's what you think this thing, this vast entity that is beyond any conception of our ability to understand, that's what he wants from us? Is unthinking worship? Really? That's the best you can do? I could think of 100 things God might want with us first, you know? And a science experiment's actually kind of near the top of the list. A creation, a model, a plaything. Like, there's so many reasons why an entity like that could create a universe like this, and it might not have anything to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
We could be an accidental byproduct of this universe. Life, there's nothing anywhere that says life was predetermined or necessary for this universe to be the way that it is or to do what it's doing. And there's a lot more going on that is a hell of a lot more interesting in the big, wide universe than, you know, the Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, it's fascinating, and it's just, they keep learning more and more every year, and, you know, it's just, it's insane what we're learning about the universe and space and our role in it.
That's right. Exactly. As Alex says, Freemasons have the concept of the great architect. I mean, that's kind of more how I would think it. I'm not a Freemason, by the way, at all. Nick asks, do I think deism is more sensible because it dodges the problem of suffering? No, I don't think that it's more sensible because it dodges the question of suffering. I think it gives a different idea about why suffering would exist. I don't think it dodges the question. I think it presents a different or an alternative view of it, which is suffering exists because of random chance and because of psychopaths. And apaths who go along with the psychopaths, if we want to use that modeling of humanity, right? If 60% of us are apaths, which means they're kind of don't really have a fully realized concept of self, and they're willing to follow anybody who comes along who appeals to their basic value system or personality. And if that's 60% of our population, which is a majority of the population, then you have the empaths and the apaths, or the empaths and the sociopaths, kind of fighting for, you know, to get the apaths to follow them. And we know from cults, gangs, you know, etc., what happens when sociopaths are in charge and what they do to people. I've not done a study, and I actually think it might be kind of interesting to look at, you know, what happens when empaths are in charge, you know. Most of the time it's a good thing, not always, and it doesn't, of course, is no guarantee of relief from suffering, but at least this side of the equation is an effort to relieve suffering, is an effort to make things better and get along. The effort on the other side of the equation with the sociopaths is kill, destroy, harm, maim, you know, YOLO, right? You only live once sort of thing. Something so trivial, others who are suffering don't receive divine intervention. Well, that's right. It doesn't make sense. Don't know if I'm missing an earlier beginning there. I see that's interesting, Laughing Daffodils, that you're saying that Providence set it all up. He knew what he was doing, so there's no random chance. I've not heard or read anything in when I was reading today about deism. I went through Britannica, I went through Wikipedia, I went through a bunch of articles on deism versus theism, and I didn't see anything that said that it was that predestination or predetermination was an inherent part of deism, just that there was a deity in existence. That's crucial to the belief, is that a deity exists. Originally, there was this set of beliefs that man was kind of installed with, but that's kind of old school, original deism, and didn't necessarily carry forward all the way to now. Mm-hmm. And I didn't read a word about predestination or predeterminism being part of that picture, so so I can't necessarily go there with that. But as far as a deity answering prayers under a deistic belief set, I don't think the deity answers anything. There's no revelations, there's no interference. So there's no supernatural anything going on. So prayers aren't going anywhere. So you can, I guess, as a deist, some deists do send up some prayers, but it's more like meditations than, as from what I read, it's not really like penitent requests for interference or for God to come in and interfere or do something. That's not what deists necessarily do, at least from the reading that I did on it. Earth is the ultimate gag reel. That's funny. We are insignificantly significant. That's right. That's exactly right. See, what I see, I think the point that I wanted to make ultimately with my critique of theism versus deism is I see theism loaded up with hubris and ego. And I see deism not that way. I see it as a healthier alternative. This is my opinion. Okay, this is not some scientific fact. This is just Chris Shelton spouting off. But I see theism as an effort to be subservient, to put yourself underneath the charge of, or, make yourself, prostrate to, this divine creator concept. And that by doing so, you gain advantage, right? By not questioning, by falling in line, by doing what you understand this ultimate creator wants you to do, your reward is this, ultimate paradise, and that's why you're going to be a good little person and follow all the rules. And I can't see that through any other lens than one of coercive control. Mm-hmm. I'm just too whatever on that I can't see that as anything other than an abusive relationship, where all the power is here.
Yeah, worship me and do everything I say, or else.
Right. Right. It's I mean, that's how humans control other humans. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine why a being of ultimate power and force and ability and potential would ever want that from his creation. I cannot logic my way there. Nope. Maybe it's an emotional thing. Maybe I just don't have it in me to be subservient that way or whatever, but I just can't go there. I don't even like the language, submission, mm-hmm. I don't like that. I just don't think that's where, I don't think that's how a God, I just don't think that's what they would want, right? So deism makes a lot more sense to me as a healthier belief system. Yeah, there's a God. Yeah, there's something out there. Yeah, this was all created by something we don't understand yet. Yeah. I can totally get on board with that.
Yeah, because I feel like there's nobody on this planet that actually really knows how we got here. Not scientists, not religious people, not me, not right. Chris. So exactly. None of us really know exactly what happened. Science is trying to figure it out, but they don't have all the answers yet. They have some answers, but not all the answers.
Exactly. And that is true. That's exactly true. Now we have a couple calls in the queue. Oh, cool. I finally got off my soapbox, so let's go ahead and take them. Kenneth?
Yeah. Hi, Chris and Melissa. How are you?
Hello.
Hey, thanks for your patience on the line there.
Hey, no problem. It's fascinating to listen to you guys. It's been a while since I called in. I I just wanted to share one or two things, and I'm going to jump off here real quick.
Absolutely.
If
What
that's
you got?
okay with you guys.
Please.
Well, having been a Christian minister for the last 14 years, I'm getting old, okay?
Okay.
So give me a minute. I got to do the math. It's like 14, 15 years.
Okay.
Here are two. I'm going to paraphrase from the movie Rudy, because this is accurate in my belief system. There are two things that I'm reasonably certain of to my own mind. God exists, and he isn't me. So, I'm fairly certain of that. As far as theism versus deism, what I wanted to ask is, it's been a long time. I've read a bit of deism. I'm familiar with Thomas Paine, Ethan Allen. I'm not sure if you knew Ethan Allen was a deist. He wrote a book called Reason, the Only Oracle of Man. It's not bad, by the way. Anyway, what I was going to ask is, do all deists believe that God never interferes with anything, period? Or do they think, okay, maybe he does once in a while, but we just wouldn't be aware of it? Or is it like on a spectrum?
Right. As I understand it, it is crucial to the definition of the term that revelation not be part of what's going on, and therefore God interfering or God giving messages or prophecy or, dreams or something would be like, no, that just doesn't happen. God is either passively observing or he ain't around. That's my understanding of the deist position.
Okay, I was also thinking I take it you've seen the Indiana Jones movies.
Oh yeah, yeah, I might have seen those a couple times.
I love them as well. I was thinking of something. There was an interview that was done in a documentary about I think it was about Raiders of the Lost Ark, or it was something years ago. This was when the History Channel. This was before it became a pseudo history garbage dump.
Right.
So going back a little bit.
Right.
And there was this thing where they were talking about the Ark of the Covenant. One of the villains says it's a radio, a transmitter to speak to God and ask him what you want. And of course, somebody making the film, or who was a biblical scholar, said, of course, Belloc is presupposing God has anything he wants to say to him.
Exactly.
Because if you remember, it doesn't exactly turn out really well for him.
No, it doesn't.
So, yes, I do believe.
That's
right.
I
mean, I am a theist. I do believe God does no, I don't believe God's like pulling our strings on everything or whatnot like that. And I will admit, yes, some aspects of my belief system may seem bizarre to some people, but that's okay.
Yeah,
we're
whatever.
human. We're messy. We're complicated.
That's right.
And and this is something like a friend of mine asked, well, how can you be a minister but also say you're a skeptic? I said, because skepticism deals with how you weigh and evaluate facts and determine things. I don't believe skepticism in and of itself necessarily means, oh, you must think this or that necessarily.
Absolutely not.
I wanted to get your feedback on that.
Yep. No, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
In fact, you might be familiar with William of Occam's Razor. That's one of my favorites. He was a Christian.
Yeah.
actually.
That's
And
right.
I read some of his stuff, and
yeah, a lot of philosophers in history have been deeply religious people. And I'm not gonna necessarily paint all of them with the evil and must be destroyed brush, right? Because it's religious belief is religious belief. It's faith, and when you don't have facts to fill in the void of I don't know what to think about this, then faith is what enters the picture. And I'm not going to argue with somebody about that if I don't have facts to argue against.
I try to be the same way. I must confess, I don't. How do I put this delicately? I don't always debate my views as charitably as I should, if only because as a fallible human being,
Right.
we tend to get emotional attachments to things, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Just one last question before I go. Have any of you guys run these ideas by Seven and see what he thinks, or does he not say much?
He is so non-committal. He just never comments.
Yeah.
We have asked him many times
About many things.
all kinds of things. He won't even tell us his favorite food. I mean, we sort of guess at it, but
Oh no, that's pretty easy.
oh, is that pretty?
It's
Do we have that
green
nailed?
olives, man.
Oh, okay. Apparently, we know that much.
Well,
That's
thanks
when
for
it gets
letting
the
me
most
be on
exciting,
Chris,
man.
Melissa, and Seven. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate the warm welcome. And thanks for, one last thing. I thought you did great with Joe Walsh. You two brilliant podcasters doing a show. And
thank you.
I thought it was very good. And I'm a Walshian, okay? I'm
Cool.
out of the closet, okay, man? You know. So I'm just
okay. I get it.
Thanks for letting somebody on who probably has some disagreements with you, but you guys are always cool. Like you, I get shot at, not literally, but verbally by people all over the spectrum. But as they say, you can judge the quality of a person by who their opponents are. I don't say enemies because I view it more as opponents, but enemies implies, how do I put this, is an inaccuracy, and I would consider it, how do I put this, destructive, needlessly so.
Yeah, exactly.
Would that be your assessment as well?
As often as I can. As often as I can.
Yeah, I try to do that. I sometimes lose my patience on things, but that's fine. Exactly. Listen, thank you for having me on, the three of you. Enjoy your rest of your night. Thank you. You guys are wonderful.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Shalom.
Bye-bye.
Shalom, guys.
All right, and we're going to go straight to this next one. We're going to rat-a-tat through these calls, and then we're going to wrap up the show for this week. So, this is Jordan. Hello.
Hello, Chris. Yeah, this is Jordan.
Hi, Jordan. Welcome to the show.
I've been following you for a long time.
Awesome.
Very, very fascinating discussions you got going on about all kinds of things. So this discussion is Theism and Deism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a preacher's kid.
Oh, okay.
So, I have kind of a unique perspective on things.
I'll bet.
It boils down to this. The cobbler's children have no shoes. So, go and preach it all the time and everything, but can't do it.
Right.
Talk the talk, but can't walk the walk. You know?
Yeah, I am very familiar.
And,
yeah.
And, I guess one of the hooks that got me started in Scientology was it's practical. It's very practical. You don't have to believe anything, So, looking for something practical, something usable and all that. And so when you get into the, philosophical discussions, it's like, and how can you use it, So anyway,
okay.
I won't get into all the church stuff and everything.
Fair enough.
Not really the stuff here,
No worries, man. I get it.
Yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to ask about Scientology? Only ask because of what it says in the queue here. I wasn't sure.
We don't have 100 hours, so.
That's true. We don't. That's true. We don't.
But about a year and a half ago, I got a letter from, it doesn't say OSA, but it was, I'm an auditor here at the church, and, and it basically said, well, you can go out and do what you want, but if you ever don't say nice things about us, we're going to rake you over the coals, basically.
Wow.
It didn't say it in that way, those exact words, but, yeah.
Huh.
And it was in writing. It was a letter.
Interesting. And they just sent this to you out of the blue?
This was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I'm not out there going yak, I'm just kind of,
That's very
just for
interesting.
myself and everything.
That's very, very interesting.
But,
If you would, if I might ask you a favor.
Okay.
I only because I'm actually kind of professionally curious. Would it be possible for you to send me email me a picture of that letter?
Sure, I could do that.
Awesome.
Where would I send it to?
Send it to
Which one?
Yeah, send it to my askchrisshelton@gmail.com email address.
Okay.
Great. Awesome. Yeah,
All
I'd like
right.
to see that. Then maybe we can I can kind of see what you're talking about.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
it's like just because it takes an extreme amount of effort to get the calls and everything,
Yeah.
down. It's you get barraged with this stuff, and it's like, how do you get them to stop doing this, right?
Yeah.
So it's because I had some pushback on that and had to that kind of thing.
Got it.
Really.
Totally got it. Cool, man.
So-
Well, send me that letter and I'll take a look at it.
Okay, will do. Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right. And we have this other call, and I think this is one for you.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello, Mary.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for your patience.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
I am so excited to be on your podcast.
Aw.
Oh.
Well, we're excited to have you on our podcast. How can we help you?
Henny and I are besties. We're choice family for 36 years.
Wow.
And she turned me on to your podcast.
Awesome. Henny in the house.
Yeah, Henny. Go, Henny. What I wanted to mention was I was so interested in the show last week because other than myself, I didn't know anybody else that suffered with the vagus nerve.
Oh.
Until my gastroenterologist told me about it, I never even knew of the vagus nerve.
Mm-hmm.
So that was so interesting to me. And I finally was able to get on doxycycline, Zofran, and Compazine, and I'm sure that you, Melissa, are familiar with those medications. Also, I had that nuclear egg test that you had, and it's definitely stems from trauma and stress. So, like I said, kudos to you. I'm so happy that you found out what your condition was and you could manage it. And thank you for making other people aware of this. Because other than myself, like I said, I did not know that other people, anybody that had this condition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know it's very rare. Yeah.
It is. And I really appreciate you letting people know about it.
Well, thank you.
And one other tip I wanted to give you, I saw Dr. Deepak Chopra, and he said that to connect or redirect your vagus nerve when you cross your arms. You cross your arms one way, and then you undo them and cross them the opposite way. And that resets your vagus nerve. So that was from Deepak Chopra. And when you're stressed out, try it, and maybe it will help you.
Yeah, you never know.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Mary.
Yeah.
So, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking my call. It was a pleasure speaking with you both, and I enjoy your show very much.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
See you, Mary.
Yeah, okay.
Bye-bye.
Be well and pet 7 for me.
Oh, yeah,
Definitely will. All right. Thanks, Mary. Bye-bye.
Okay. Best wishes. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Okay, good. So those are our calls now, and we are going to start wrapping up the show here. Okay, good. Lisa, I've been seeing some of your comments. I will go through them after the show so I get all the points you've made here. Yeah. anyway, that's all I can say right now. As I see that you're commenting on there about some things, and that you are a history major, you have some information for me there that I probably should know. So I'm totally down with looking at whatever you put there.
Somebody wants to know if we had a combined couple name, what would it be?
Oh God.
And I'm like,
Chrissa?
I don't know.
Cruff? Shuff?
Carlissa?
Helton? I don't know. I'm really bad at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, Alex, that nobody knows who Deepak Chopra is in Europe. That's not a bad thing, by the way. I appreciate the arms crossing thing, but Deepak Chopra is definitely somebody who has said some things that are very suspect when it comes to scientific knowledge. Okay, we have one more check-in with our man. There he is,
Yay.
Our little bundle of furry joy and love. Looking the same as he did before. I think his eyes are closed this time. Oh, poor Seven. He gets so much nonsense from me.
Aww.
Let's see here. All right, so we will. Oh, there he goes.
He's
There he goes.
laying down. Oh, here he comes in here.
Oh,
here.
okay.
Come here.
Don't know if you can hear him meowing. All right. We are going to end off with our classic critical thinking cards. As always, our cognitive biases and logical fallacy deck.
And 7 will help.
And 7 will help. Okay, good. All right, so 7's going to help us this week.
Can see him too much. His little head is blocked.
All right, pick a card, any card.
And he's gone.
And there he goes.
Pessimism bias. Ooh, uh-oh.
Oh, okay. Pessimism bias. I don't know if I've ever seen this before in this household. Actually, I probably demonstrate this more than she does in very strange ways. You overestimate the likelihood of negative outcomes. Okay, that is pessimism bias. Pessimism is often a defense mechanism against disappointment. That's for sure. Perhaps the worst aspect of pessimism is that even if something good happens, you'll probably feel pessimistic about it anyway. Yeah. Yeah, we actually had a lecture in our uni class about optimism and pessimism. And it was quite interesting from a psychological perspective how facts are treated by optimists and pessimists. It's not just an emotional thing or an introversion extroversion thing. And it was anyway, it was kind of interesting to see that play out. 7 likes being picked up sometimes.
Yeah, for very short amounts of time.
Yes, very short amounts of time. All right, so that all being said, I think we're going to wrap up now. This has been fun. This has been a fun one. I've enjoyed the conversation in this. It was kind of far-ranging, but I think we had a good time. I want to appreciate or send out some appreciation to all of the folks who dropped super chats. Really appreciate that. It is what kind of keeps this thing going, and just so you guys know, the calls, everything, we're paying for that. So we definitely appreciate the support that you guys are giving us to enable us to do this show at all. That being said, so John Atack podcast tomorrow, regular critical Q&A on Sunday, and I am doing a live stream on Facebook with Clint Haycock, a friend of mine in the UK, at I think 1 p.m. on my time on Sunday. So there will be a religion and mental health is the topic. Okay, so we'll be talking about religious trauma and mental health and stuff like that connected with religion. So maybe I'll see you guys there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up here.
Good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.